Lovely to see everybody here. A big crowd, I say quite overwhelming the number of people in this room, so bear with me. This is, those of you who know me know this is the worst part of my job, having to stand on the stage and actually talk to people. So please bear with me. I'm going to speak for a very short amount of time. Hopefully there'll be time for questions, but I know Lucy Chappell will be here later, and there'll be maybe some further questions that you want to take forward with her, and I'll be here as well. So this slide just really sets out, for those of you who aren't aware, the core work streams of the NIHR. Lucy will be speaking later about the future for NIHR and where we're going, and our areas of strategic focus. So I'm not going to dwell on this for too long, but just to say that the CRFs and the network are a real key part of, in terms of our commitment, particularly around that investing in that world-class expertise, facilities, and that skilled delivery workforce. But of course, in other areas as well, the collaboration part, the attracting the people, working to support how research that's funded is delivered in a timely way. So absolutely core to the mission of what NIHR is about. But of course, CRFs are only one part of our infrastructure. So this map just sort of shows very, so you probably can't see the detail, but there is a huge spread and scale of infrastructure investments across England, and of course NIHR is England only, and they're very much, the CRFs are absolutely front and centre in that early stage clinical research infrastructure. As Paul said, we've now got 28 CRFs going into the next round, a massive increase in funding, 161 million over 5 years. But of course, we cover the whole innovation pathway in NIHR, so that's everything from that early translation through clinical through to applied research. So what do we want from CRFs in the future? We are talking now much more about collaboration. We are not talking about silos of this funding stream, that funding stream. We want CRFs and our other parts of the infrastructure to be working together collaboratively, and the CRFs are some of the most collaborative, and the network is one of the most collaborative networks I know across all the infrastructures. But how do we work together, harnessing those collective benefits, that collective expertise, both at a local, regional and national level? We really want to give as many people the opportunities to participate in research all over the country, wherever they live, to try and really accelerate that new science into better treatments, better diagnostics, better technologies, and better services. And that real ethos that underpins everything that we do in NIHR around research following patient need. So coming onto the network, so I'm not going to give any spoilers because, as you know, the competition is very much open, and I can't give you any indications on that at the moment. But as you know, that competition is open, and it's very much about how we help coordinate across the CRFs in the UK. I won't cover any of the stuff that Paul's covered, but there's obviously lots of operational aspects to this, coordinating the delivery across CRFs, similar to now. But there are some areas where we're really looking for a really big step change. There's more funding available, and unfortunately there's no such thing as a free lunch, so we do ask for more. The more money you get, the more demands that we place on you. One of the things that we're really looking for here is how the network will coordinate the CRFs to form an integrated national platform for the delivery of high-intensity early-phase type studies. When I say platform, that is in the last 2 years, I don't know how many times people have used the word platform. This is not a platform trial. Please be aware, we're not talking about platform trial. We're talking about a platform. How do all of the infrastructures work collectively as a platform across the piece to support the delivery of early phase or high intensity studies? The idea of thinking about this as a network system of infrastructure rather than individual schemes. We talk a lot in the NIHR about this idea of a one NIHR offer. In the early translational experimental medicine space, what is that one NIHR offer to commercial and non-commercial research funders or sponsors? That's obviously the CRFs, we've got the BRCs, we've got the ECMCs. What is it that does to join those things together? The increasing the offer to industry, really important. Industry, as I'm sure you guys will know, has really suffered, or felt that they very much suffered during the COVID pandemic. And I'm delighted to hear about that AstraZeneca work. This is very much where we're talking about how do we raise awareness for industry of what we offer in the UK around early phase delivery, and thinking about pipelines of studies and people's entire kind of portfolios rather than just on a study-by-study basis. Now, we can't do that all the time, but how can we start to be much more strategic about how we approach that work with industry? And of course, working with the broader research infrastructure system to address some of the barriers to early phase research and making sure that the CRFs play a really key role in how we achieve, and I'll come on to it later, the vision for the future of clinical research delivery in the UK. We are trying to make the UK a globally competitive location for research delivery. And that's including the appropriate delivery of large-scale trials, decentralised trials, hybrid trials, or really complex early phase trials as well. So it's about how does the network help us develop, share the tools to continue to be really proactive in the approach for identifying key areas related to things like the research management, organisation, process that would really benefit from collaborative working. And of course the skills training and workforce development really clear. You've talked about sharing best practice, developing learning modules. How do you join that up with offers that things like the Clinical Research Network offer? How do you really think about developing and coordinating that leadership across CRF managers? And of course, really importantly, those career structures for research delivery staff. And as I say, I can't talk anything about the outcome. The outcome will be announced in September, but we obviously are looking at that at the moment. So now we come on to where the future lies for us across government and across the whole of the sector really, and the role I think for the CRFs. The future of UK clinical research delivery, the vision was published in March 2021, and I have been working in this field for about 7 or 8 years, and this has been the first time ever that we've had that real cross-sector buy-in and support towards delivering a unified vision for the UK. We have just published the implementation plan for the next 3 years with commitments of additional, and this is on top of what we already get, an additional 150 million of funding from NIHR, 25 million funding from our partners across the UK, complementing £200 million of investment in England for the Data for Research Development Programme, which was announced in March. So the government is really committed to delivering on the UK's potential in this space. The plan remains centred around 5 key overarching themes which are outlined there. There is detail in the vision, and we can send around links if people want to. We also have a microsite which has a lot of detail, but I thought I'd take this opportunity to highlight some things that have already happened just in the last year. We've made real progress. The combined review process between MHRA and HRA has halved the approval times for CTIMS since January 2022 compared to previous, and so really streamlining that route towards regulatory journey for researchers. We've got a new UK-wide accreditation scheme for clinical research practitioners, and that's aiming to try and double the size of this important workforce over the future. And we've already had over 1,000 people sign up to be part of that. The NIHR, working with colleagues, launched the UK-wide Associate Principal Investigator Scheme to make, aiming to make research part of the clinical training for doctors, nurses, and allied health professionals. And for those people that could become the principal investigators of the future. Again, over 1,000 people have already registered to that scheme. The GMC published its position statement on normalising research, promoting research for all doctors, and of course, and I'm not going to steal Ruth's thunder on this, but also the work that it's been doing with the chief nursing officer in England around their strategic plan, and I'm sure Ruth will talk about that in some more detail. We've also increased the range of model UK contracts agreed with industry and the NHS. So we've expanded that to include model clinical investigation agreements for medical devices and the first model confidentiality disclosure agreement for use by companies with potential NHS sites to take forward. And of course, for those of you who are involved with these, one of our favourite topics, excess treatment costs. NHS England has refreshed its guidance on excess treatment costs, and from April of this year, the provider thresholds have been reduced, meaning that more providers will receive excess treatment costs, helping to remove some of those barriers we know to getting research started. But there's still loads to do, and the vision is sort of a 10-year vision, so there's a lot to do over the next 3 years. Sorry this slide is so busy, but I just tried to pull out some of the things that we're looking to do. The first one, and probably the one that's on everybody's mind at the moment, is we need to really recover the UK's capacity to deliver research through this research reset programme. We know that basically we've got significant activity across all areas of the NHS. We've got the legacy of the COVID studies now in follow-up, and at the same time, the NHS is stretched. We've got this, the numbers of new studies coming in has not declined but in any way. People often talk to me about, this is about you trying to close studies or doing the what's it called, housekeeping on trying to do look at. No, absolutely not. But we know there is a simple maths problem here. We have too many studies and not the capacity to deliver everything. And also we know that care pathways are changing, and some of the studies that may have been viable prior to the pandemic are simply not viable anymore. So we want to really focus in on what can we do to try and reset the agenda, use this as a catalyst. So saying, look, this is another challenge. You guys have been through the last couple of years of challenge with COVID. Look at how we all pulled together to do that. This is a challenge, potentially even a bigger challenge for the system. How do we do that to really think about this as a springboard and a launch pad to embedding a new way of working to deliver on that future vision? We have to do something to move that. So it's a real catalyst for change. We need to see it in that light. But let's not underestimate the challenge, the scale of the problem. We have said in our implementation plan that we are aiming for 80% of all open studies on the CRM portfolio. And just so you know, we use that as a proxy. I know not every study is on the CRM portfolio, but it's the only national level data we have. To be delivering, by 80% of those to be delivering to time to target by 2023. Currently, that's about 25%. So we have a switch that we have to do within the next sort of 11 to 12 months to try and reverse that. I know there are some problems with the data, I know there are various other things, but fundamentally there is an absolute switch we need to do. We also have nearly 800 studies that have been in setup for 180 days or more. The roughly same split between commercial and non-commercial research, but given that about 25% of the portfolio is commercial, that is obviously hitting our commercial companies a lot more. And we know how important getting that income stream, the funding that the commercial studies bring into the sites is really important. That's a really key thing that we need to do. It's a really difficult thing, but we're asking the entire sector to work with us. This is about us all pulling together. This is not about anyone individually, but we need to all pull together. But we can really think about how this can change then. How do we make the changes through this and learn from this to learn for the future? We need to also, so the other things that we're looking to do, we need to recognise, and we want to do more to recognise and support our expert workforce, of which you are all those and more, of course, not here, to provide that kind of basis for a strategic investment in the capacity development and to support how we're going to achieve that vision in full. We want to broaden, and we are going to broaden the responsibility and the accountability for research across the NHS. It started with the Health and Care Bill, which you will know got royal assent earlier this year, and we're taking that forward into the next stages now. We need to improve how we measure those studies, those sites that are supporting clinical research studies, how we increase the visibility and how we recognise those more effectively. And we need to basically achieve a sector-wide and sustainable shift in how studies are designed and delivered so that they are inclusive, practical and accessible, and they are delivered with and for the people with greatest need and the ways that enable us to tackle the greatest challenges faced in the NHS. And another key one, which I put at the end, which is halfway down, but it is actually something that's really important, and probably the thing that I hear about most is we need to streamline processes. We need to strengthen our regulatory environment. We need to get faster at approvals, faster at setup, faster at delivery of studies, and in a way that's more predictable with less variation, and trying to make it easier for people outside to understand, which we know is, we understand internally, but is quite complex, a complex system, and what the UK's clinical research offer is. And utilising this as an opportunity to think about more flexible ways of working, improved models, noting, of course, we're outside of the EU, but also think about our attractiveness as the leading destination to conduct cutting-edge, early phase and late phase, but early phase in this context, global multi-centre studies. We, of course, need to invest in the infrastructure, the tools, and particularly on the digital side and the transformations happening there to implement that kind of people-centred, innovative data and digitally enabled methods to support study delivery. That is how we free up the capacity in terms of our staff resources by being better about how we use technology to help us. And we need to work across the ecosystem to think about health data and how we can really benefit from those approaches. And we are hoping and expecting the CRS will play an absolute key role in this in helping us to achieve on those commitments. This is absolutely a UK-wide vision. This is not about England, this is not about NIHR, this is the UK, this is about all the devolved nations of the UK, the industry, the charities. We are all working together towards that collective vision, and we're absolutely committed to doing that. So I said didn't do too many slides. I'll say thank you very much. Happy to take questions if I have time still, but if not, I'm happy to answer questions later.
Next session.